So the next number that I was in and that we have performed over the past 3 shows and dress rehearsal is Hot Honey Rag. Hot Honey Rag is from the musical... I would tell you what it's from. Oh, I did my research as well. Hot Honey Rag, where's it from? Chicago. Hot Honey Rag is from Chicago, and it is a Fosse style piece from Bob Fosse himself. It is kind of a very quirky style of dance, very unique, and kind of, I think a lot of people associate it with a lot of like okays and a lot of like weird movements like lenient backs, a lot of shoulder rolls, a lot of flexed feet, and not necessarily your average pointed toe. I sound like a right posh boy over here. I sound like I know my stuff. And it was great. I loved rehearsals. It was fantastic. I think that the number that we had chosen as a cast was brilliant. I think that it kind of was something new, something that we could learn on, because previously we hadn't really done any dance numbers previous to the Christmas showcase. Not because we haven't wanted to, but just because of the circumstance, because our previous project was Andrew Lloyd Webber and we didn't necessarily do any Fosse numbers because we didn't really know what it was, which is fair. So with our rehearsal process, I think a lot of it for me was understanding the technique and the importance of it. Like Cheryl has been telling us constantly, like, make sure your fingers are spayed, make sure your feet are flexed, again, make sure your shoulders are back. It's very technical. The dance moves aren't necessarily tricky. Like, she's not asking us to do backflip after backflip. It's just keeping the consistency of the technique, which is something that I think I still struggle with to this day. Like, just because I did the show and because I rehearsed it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm perfect. So I think in the future that's something that I would like to improve on as an individual, like understanding the importance of technique, and I think understanding the style of dance on a more depth level. When it came to the show, I thought it was great. I think that my rehearsal has paid off 100%. Again, it's a dance number that we have rehearsed again and again and again and again. It is drilled in my brain. I probably still remember it now. But it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And to be honest, I think probably one of the hardest parts for me as a person is probably the really quick jumpy step where we have our feet together and we're like 1, 2, 3. For some reason, that part of the dance really threw me off for a long while, and I found it very difficult to do it. And even to this day, I still can't do it. And I think that just goes to show that even if you are rehearsing like mad, sometimes it just takes a bit more time. Sometimes it's okay not to be perfect at everything, and I think that's something that I've learnt as well during this piece. So I think it's important that in the future, if I'm genuinely finding something difficult, even though I have rehearsed for it, I can adapt the number to myself. Not in a sense of like completely re-choreograph it, but if I'm struggling with something, or if one of my fellow peers are struggling with something, then it's okay to adapt it to your level, because I'm personally not a dancer. It's not my forte. I don't pretend that I'm a dancer, so again, it's something that I struggled with, but still loved it. I still really enjoyed it. And I think to compensate for the fact that I'm not a dancer, I ensured that my facial expressions were over the top, were giving like jazz hands. I was giving it large, doing my gestures, even during the small bits where we were holding our hats, and I think that the costume added to that as well, which again, costume is quite a big thing I think in the few numbers that we have done.